Well, tonight we are just so grateful and thankful to God for His grace, His mercy, and His love toward us. This is Bishop Edgar L. Van. Tonight I am just so honored, so excited, so delighted to have with me pastors of the Kingdom Alliance Covenant Fellowship International, who are, we are in session this week in our convocation. We're starting tonight with a great service. If you're in the Detroit area, you have an opportunity to get here, Second Ebenezer Church, 14601 DeQuinda Road, right off I-75 and East McNichols, better known as 6 Mile Road. Well, I want to thank each of you for being with us on tonight. This is going to be an exciting conversation with pastors, and our subject for tonight will be the plight of the pandemic preacher. Wow. I hope that if there's a pastor or you're watching and your pastor needs to see this, reach out to that pastor right now. Whoever he or she may be, make sure that you reach out to your pastor right now. These are distinguished pastors who are going to share with us what it's been like to pastor in the pandemic and what does the future look like as well. Well, I have to my far left Dr. Harold Cadwell. He is a distinguished pastor here in the city of Detroit, Transformation Church. I'm grateful to God for him. Also very heavily affiliated with the Ecumenical Theological Seminary here in Detroit as well. And next to him and next to me is Pastor Yolounda Whitlow. I'm grateful to God for her. She pastors the Mount Pisgah Church here in Detroit, Michigan. Tremendous story, tremendous legacy. I'm sure we'll get into it in just a moment. A thriving congregation. And to my right, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, is another one of my sons in the Lord, Dr. Tariq Cummings. Dr. Cummings is pastor of the Owsley Church there in Atlanta, Georgia. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Bishop.
I am so happy. I know here in Detroit it's raining tonight. We've had a lot of rain.
Oh, yes.
Haven't seen this much rain since Noah, right? But a lot of rain here, but the Lord blessed you all to make it here and to be here on time. Well, we're going to get right into it. We don't have a lot of time tonight. We got a big service coming up at 7:30 tonight. You're invited, or you could just stay online with us. You'll have an opportunity to be a part of our worship experience on tonight. Well, we wanted to say this year, since we couldn't have our convocation last year, that we were on the other side of the pandemic. But it just looks like we are not. As a matter of fact, there's all kind of predictions out there of this Delta even surging even further.
That's right.
Wow. We have never pastored in a time like this. I wish I could talk to my dad and say to him, you know, man, listen, I know you came through the depression and all that kind of stuff, pastoring and going on, but I'm pastoring in a pandemic. And try to explain that to him. What has been your experience? What has been your challenge? And what has been the blessing for you pastoring in the pandemic? Pastor Cadwell?
I would say, sir, just being able to see the commitment of God's people. We talk a lot about who is not coming back or who disappeared, but there were some people in all of our churches that stepped up to make ministry work in the midst of the transition. And these were people who perhaps had not been so much in the forefront before, but they came out of nowhere to say, listen, Pastor, and I'm pretty good with social media. I've got this device I want to dedicate to the church and donate to the church to help us. So people just kind of came out of nowhere, and that to me was the most energizing portion.
Sounds
of the
great.
entire period.
Sounds great. Dr. Cummings, you're the furthest away among us. You flew in all the way from Atlanta, probably a little bumpy today. Atlanta's another city. I don't know, you can tell us maybe how vaccinations have been going there. What has it been like, though, pastoring in a pandemic in a place like Atlanta?
Well, Bishop, it comes with its own great challenges, as you know, as in with what we all are experiencing, right? To get the word, and I believe that the pandemic, pretty much it started, it hit in March at our last convocation, right?
Yeah,
we were right
we
here.
were sitting right here.
We were right here, and the next day we had to figure out church is closed, so what we're going to do, and you were talking about simplifying, right? And so for us, that's been key, just simplifying church. And I think that has been a great joy to see how when we moved all of these different things that we thought made church, right? Especially in my church where liturgy seems to be a big deal at sometimes. And you have to have this all stand up, sit down type of style of church, right? But just to say, hey, we're just coming here to worship, to receive the word of God, to just see how people are easily connected. When we didn't have a technology ministry at our church when we first started, entering this pandemic. But on that day, we had to come up with one. So guess what? We had to bring out that iPhone. Right?
Yes,
we had to
sir.
bring out that iPhone. We had
Yes,
to
sir.
find that lapel mic. And we had to go for what we know, right? And we had to preach the gospel simple, full, and free. And that, for me, has been a great joy. But as we consider now resting in this season and people are looking for direction, people are somewhat getting burned out on this style of doing church. And people are asking themselves, should we go back because folks seem to be disinterested, or should we stay in this way? Because as you were asking the question about Atlanta, we're still so way behind as it pertains to getting vaccinated in our community. And so the question is if we enter back into church, how many folk will be affected by this great disease and this virus? And so we're, at this constant pool, I believe, this great tension that I believe, if we just stick to it, God will see us through.
Well, that sounds great. Pastor Yolounda, listen, I know that for you there's been some unique challenges.
Yes.
You're a mother.
Yes.
You're a daughter.
Yes.
You're a pastor.
Yes.
You're a businesswoman.
Yes.
You have all of those balls to juggle up in the air, and boom, here comes a pandemic.
Yes.
Here comes an unusual, unprecedented situation in time. Tell us, what has your plight been?
Wow. I mean, it truly has been very unique. First of all, Bishop, as you know, I was just in my second year of being in pastoral leadership from my father, Dr. Whitlow, who had passed away, and the mantle was handed to me. So there was no handbook. So I was just in my second year. Ministry momentum was moving. I mean, everything. I mean, it was just great. And then the pandemic hit. Therefore, I mean, I was like, okay, Lord, what to do? Lost my father, who was the founding pastor, who was like my rock and everything. And so with that, I'm walking not just as a pastor, but a female pastor, a single female pastor with all these other responsibilities on me. But I can honestly say, the grace of God has really kept us, with that. Stop church, like it was just like an instant stop. Like, what do you do? I mean, because you used to growing up, I mean, we just used to being inside of a building, but I really believe that God had, because of this transition, God really taught not only us as pastors, but the people, the church that was in the temple. It taught us one thing, that we have to understand that we are the church. And so with that, instantly, starting church, like Pastor said, we had our little iPhones in the living room. I had services in our dining room area, but it seemed like, tithes went up, attendance went up. I was just like, okay, so like, when do we, I was kind of okay, like, not coming back in, but it was a true, unique experience for myself. But there was no handbook, but I can honestly say people, the commitment, join together, because one thing, when you those are one of the things that I had started teaching about. We are the church. And truly, like, we are the church. It's outside the four walls. And so that's one thing that really ignited our ministry, is like outreach. We go out. It's outside the four walls. And we're really energized with that right now. I mean, our church and our members and supporters, they love to go outside the four walls now. We're not contained inside the walls anymore. So that's a unique thing for me right now, and I'm excited about that.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great. So I think we went back to a basic definition of what the church is. And we began to understand it's not ours.
Come on.
Yes.
It's not our church.
Yes.
I think too many people have sort of drifted away from that straight line.
Yes.
sir.
And
Yes,
had
sir.
gotten to the point where, this is my thing. This is,
Ooh, come on,
this
Bishop.
is my ministry.
Yes.
These are my
baby.
people.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And I'm doing my thing,
Yes.
And I think that what God allowed us to see is that, listen, I'll shut that door
Wow.
and let you find out what the church is really
Yes.
all about.
Wow.
And I want to see, are you going to be about your Father's business?
Good.
What
Oh,
are you going to do?
Yes.
How are you going to respond?
Yes.
And how are you going to stay connected to your people? So let's talk about that. How did you stay connected to your people? What did you do? I know you say you got the iPhones. I know you did.
Right, yes, sir.
And that was a great pivot. I mean, I know that I had been teaching on that.
Right.
We were in the middle of my master class
Yes, sir.
when all of
Yes.
this happened in March of 2020.
Yes, sir.
On that day, it was March the 13th.
Yes, sir.
I think it
Wow,
was.
yes.
And we were right there, and boom. And how did you pivot? I mean, you had to do it right away,
Yes.
like almost instantaneously. But how do you maintain, even to this day, connection with your people?
Bishop, I think that's a great question. And for us, it's really just using the gifts that we have, right? There are so many great technological gifts that are out there that we've used. I pick off of Bishop all the time. And so we get these call-in posts all the time from Bishop just sharing, hey, I'm thinking about you, praying for you, and giving a small, kind word. I took that down to Atlanta, Georgia. So y'all got to give Bishop credit now. I took it to Atlanta, Georgia, and every other day I would just give kind words, or just words to encourage the people of God, because I knew that in this season many people were discouraged, just like we were as pastors,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so what really kept me connected, what kept me energized, what kept me focused, was that as I was being poured into, I was also pouring out, right?
Yes.
Understanding that in this season, that what people need to know is that God is a present help in the time of trouble. Right? And that God is with them, and that this did not take God by surprise. And so for us, it was just making those simple connecting points from Facebook posts, from Twitter and Instagram, and just embracing these secular gifts. I remember back in the day, and I'll leave it alone, but back in the day you couldn't take phones into church, right? Because the usher boy would be grabbing those phones. You better not have those phones in church. You better not be on Facebook. But Lord, thanks God for Facebook. Thank God for Instagram.
Because you do know Facebook was the devil.
Yes,
It was
it was the devil.
was.
But it's our saving grace now. So, grateful for that. And so, just using those simple tools
Great.
to engage, yes.
How'd you stay connected?
With me, Bishop, I went elementary on it, where I literally started writing postcards, like cards to the
Oh,
members,
yeah.
putting that personal touch,
do that
sending
too.
them out
Yes.
to them. So it was like a personal touch, literally calling. Where normally we have a connect team and all that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
personally took that moments, not everything, because it's not all about me, but I really felt that just being able to hear from your leader, because not only there was moments we were discouraged, And so I
Absolutely.
said this right here would make that special touch. Like, wow, I received a note from my pastor with my signature on it. So I
Right.
kind of went old school with it. I
love
took
it.
it from the social media platform, and just literally I was sending out notices to our people and calling people on the phone, like my mother's, like the saints, the seasoned saints. I went to their homes, like with my mask, leaving them, in their homes, like, but I'm just at their door, like here we are.
That's awesome.
Here we are, So we would do drive-bys too,
That's it.
right?
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Dr. Cadwell, I want to now open this a little bit and talk about us. I want to talk about the plight of this pandemic, preacher. And I want you to respond to this and the others as well. There's a lot of talk now about self-care, especially
Yes.
for pastors. We know the statistics. We see them all the time. Christian demographers like George Barner, Tom Rayner, and others, give us Sam Chan and others, give us all of the statistics of the burnout of pastors. How many quit every month? How many pastors want to quit but feel like they can't? How many pastors are frustrated with their jobs? This is something that I think a lot of people don't really realize, the weight that's on us. So self-care, what do you think about that? What did you do to preserve yourself as you made all of these changes and as you drifted into the unknown, because none of us knew how any of this was going to turn out. We didn't. All we knew is that God is God's church, and He told us to do what we're doing. But we didn't know. We had no frame of reference about it, and so it was stressful, and it remains stressful.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
To be honest with
That's
you,
right.
Absolutely.
I think we're at levels of stress that we've never been at before as pastors. We're talking to pastors tonight.
Yeah.
I want pastors who are out there really to listen tonight. This is for you. I want members out there to have an understanding of what pastors are going through. And I also reach out to your pastor. Tell them to hop on right quick, because we're talking about it, and something that's being said just might help them.
That's right.
Dr. Cadwell, what about the self-care? What did you do to help yourself during this stressful period?
The first thing I think that every pastor needs to take note of is that you are not God. Therefore, you're not expected to always have the answer.
That's right.
You're not expected to know everything.
That's right.
Sometimes it's a matter of knowing what you don't know
That's right.
and being willing to entrust that with someone who does.
Yeah.
One of the things about leadership is the importance of the helmsman increases in times of storm. Everybody looks to you for the answer. And the worst thing you can say is, I don't know. Sometimes that is the best answer you can give, because it takes the pressure off of you to try to come up with something. Now you're not sleeping at night. And now you're not eating properly. You're not resting. Even when you're resting, you're not resting because you think that you have to come up with the answer.
Yes, that's
No,
good.
somebody has the answer. There's someone who's written a book. There's someone who's having a round table conversation. There's a bishop that has a fellowship that you might want to get involved in. You've got peers. You've got cohorts and co-laborers that you can discuss things with. And don't be afraid to say, I don't know what to do.
That's right.
You know, God didn't expect us to know what to do. He expects us to trust Him. And that sounds like an easy thing, but that really for most pastors is the most difficult thing to do.
It is.
As you said, to understand that the life of this church is not predicated upon my acumen.
Yeah.
It's predicated upon His power.
That's right.
And just being able to allow yourself to just step back, take a breath, and say, let me take my hand off of it, and find somebody who knows what they're doing, and let them do it, and give them the space they need to make it happen. Because otherwise, you'll just literally wear yourself out
Absolutely.
trying to be everything and do everything.
That's true.
Wow. Love it. Love it. Love it. What happened with you? Did you, Pastor, have days where you had no answers, you had no clues, and the stress of that? You know, you're in leadership, but you're not in control. You know, it's our church. I think what we all understood was, it's not our church by ownership.
Yes.
It's our church by stewardship.
Stewardship.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right.
And so, what did you do? You know, trying to find all the sheep. You know, where are they? How did you stay connected? But how did you take care of you?
Yeah, Bishop, for me, I must be honest, is that when the pandemic hit, my initial thought was, let me see how much I can do to keep the people
Sure.
of God together, right? But then I remember a book that says I did it to myself. That reminds me that it
Famous author, too.
It's famous author, yes. Yeah, that talks about how when we try to overdo it or overcompensate during season of great stress, right? How we find ourselves in positions that are difficult to get out of. And so I have to be honest with you, in those moments where I was trying to overcompensate, do as much, I found myself, and I think, Bishop, you had to call me and say, all right, Cummings, you want to pull back just a little bit because you're not going to be able to keep up with this pace, right? Because this wasn't a short period that we were talking about. We were talking about a long haul and a shift in how we do church, period. And so for me, I had to kind of step back. And what I bless God for is for experiences like such, that became very valuable to me, because it was in the pandemic that I began to understand the importance of being a part of a fellowship, to remind myself that I'm not in this by myself. You know,
Right.
pastoring is a very, very lonely role that we all live in, the space that we live in, even in a crowded room.
That's
right.
right. That's right.
And I mean, all of us are always trying to find the best way to connect with our people, trying to find the best way to serve God, but yet never feeling like we've reached that mark, right? But being a part of this fellowship, KACF, has been a blessing to me, because I've been able to have candid conversation, not only with you, but with my sisters and brothers in this fellowship, to remind that I'm not in this thing alone. I'm not by myself. I'm not the only one that's feeling this slump. I'm not the only one that's feeling in this place of feeling, angry, if that's the case,
Oh, yeah.
or
Oh,
feeling
yeah.
sad, or feeling
Yes.
like I don't know what the next move is going to be. But just to know that I'm in the ship with someone that's of the same heart and mind, and that we're praying for one another, and how God delivers them as God reveals to them, God reveals to me. It's the fellowship, right, that has made this experience bearable for me, I must say, and has served as a great support for me and for my family. Right, because I have to encourage my wife, I have to encourage my children. It's been a great challenge for us all, but the fellowship has been a great blessing.
And I think, sir, that pandemic kind of leveled the playing field amongst clergy, because when this hit, there was less senior pastor and younger pastor. There was less big pastor and small
Didn't
pastor,
matter.
because we were all in the same boat, and we were all reaching out to each other, saying, "Hey, listen, how do we work this thing out? How do we make this thing happen?
Right.
What can we do to keep one another afloat?"
Right.
And so I thank God for that aspect that came out of the pandemic, because now, pastors that you had in your phone, you're actually talking to them.
Right.
You're actually communicating with them now. You're going golfing with them now that
Right.
things open, and you've seen the need to actually sit down and have frank and candid conversations about what's really going on.
And can I just even add to the point that it's not even about always what's happening in ministry, right?
Right. Absolutely.
But now we can really talk about life.
Yes, sir.
Because for the pastor, life didn't stop for us, right? I mean, we've all have had personal family or friends who also had COVID. And so we're leading members and congregations, with folk who are infected with COVID. While leading them, we're also trying to deal with our aunt and our uncles and our, those who are also dealing with that. And so there's another level of pain and anger and frustration that you're feeling as well, and a emptiness that you feel. But I believe that through the fellowship, through community, we were able to grow.
There was a time when, I forgot that I have had chronic sinus problems my whole life. So I start sneezing or coughing. Oh my God, has it walked me down?
Yeah.
Because you've been out there ministering to people, because there's still people who still need that touch. So you don't know, has this just hit me? Am I getting sick? So all of these things that other people are dealing with, you're dealing with it,
Yes.
and trying to lead people who are dealing with it.
Right.
Wow.
So
How did you handle the stress?
The stress
How
and the
did you deal with
self-care.
it?
Wow, I mean,
And the self-care.
I'm still dealing with it right now, because it's not easy when you are a person of leadership and everyone always depend on you. It's hard to break away. It's hard to focus on self when you're so used to focusing on everyone else. So even right now, I'm challenged with that. I have not reached that
Mastered
mark.
it,
I have not done that at all, but I'm working on it. And to say I love the community part, because for any pastor that's going through what, like myself, who's a young pastor, I'm new in this. It's hard for me to kind of engage with others, but I would encourage, pastors, when you have a community, to actually utilize it, because we can find ourselves becoming isolated as pastors, just as leaders, because that's how our mindsets are developed, because we're so used to focusing on everyone else. But we have to take that time for self-care. Me, myself, being a caregiver even for my mother, who stands by my side. But my mother, she transitioned a lot when we lost my father, and being a caregiver, I'm so focused on her, because my mother, she had COVID right at the beginning of this situation. And also my youngest daughter, I was dealing with that. And, you want to find yourself with all these different, I'm like, oh, do I feel depressed? Do I feel like I have COVID? But I'm still pushing out there. But it took a moment for me to say, Yolanda, just stop. And I did do that. I mean, my brother said, you find those who can do whatever they need to do and let them do it. Sometimes we have to step away as leaders And I like to say we have to reset, recharge ourselves, and get a renewed mind and a renewed body, because if we just pull ourselves down to the ground, we're no good to ourselves or no one else. So that's very vital. It's very vital. And it's okay. It's okay, pastors. It's okay to say, I need a break. It's okay to take your hands off.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
And
right.
let God minister to you by way of self-care.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, go on that vacation.
Right.
Step away. Enjoy your family. Do that. That's important. It's
Yes.
important.
Pastors, you're getting some real transparent,
Yes.
Yes.
loving conversation here today. This is Kingdom Alliance Covenant Fellowship. This is the beginning of our convocation this year. You are tuned in, of course, to this great Pastors Roundtable here tonight, talking about the plight of the pandemic preacher. And this is rich. What I'm hearing here is rich. You know, Jesus did not say, I came that you may have church.
Come on.
Come on.
That's good.
Yes,
That's
Bishop.
good.
That's
He said, I
good.
came
didn't
that
say
you may
life.
have
Life.
life, and that you might have that what?
Abundantly.
More.
Abundantly. I think what COVID did, and this whole pandemic experience, which again is not over.
Yes.
Not over.
It's not over, and people are still suffering from the stress
Oh, yes.
that they've been going through the last 20 months.
Yes.
But it's helped us to understand that we too are human.
Yes, sir.
You know,
That's
and I know that sounds funny to other people, but
We are.
we are actually human, and if we don't do it, God takes the S off your chest.
Yes, he will.
Yes,
You
he
know,
will.
when you think you're super,
Yes, sir.
God takes it off, snatches it off, and lets me know I'm Clark Kent, really.
Yeah.
Underneath all of this,
Yes, sir.
and underneath
Yes,
what
sir.
everybody thinks of
Yes,
me,
sir.
and underneath the accolades and the this and the that
good.
and the other, I'm just Clark Kent. I'm Edgar Van. That's who I am. Wow. And you know, all our titles meant nothing.
Oh, my.
Come on.
All of this positionitis
Say it, Bishop.
didn't
Degrees.
mean anything.
Degrees.
All your degrees didn't mean anything
Lord,
because you didn't know any more than anybody else. And your title didn't entitle you to any more than anyone else.
Yes.
And your rank and position, you
Lord.
think in the kingdom, and you know, I'm a general and all of this kind of stuff.
Your church was still closed like
Your
everybody
church was closed, and you didn't know where
Closed,
everybody
closed,
was, and you didn't know what to do,
Yes.
and you were leaning and depending
Solely. Yes,
on
sir.
God.
Yes,
Yes.
solely.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. You know, all of us as pastors, we were raised this way, actually. I mean, you know, we were acculturated, I should say. I'm trying to use some good
Go
symbols.
ahead. Go ahead, Bishop.
But we were
Talk today,
acculturated
Bishop. Yeah.
to understand or to think that everything that has to do with success, especially in America, revolves around numbers, metrics. And our metric as pastors is always walking in and seeing how many people are there. Well, all of a sudden, it's not how many people are there, it's how many people are everywhere.
Right.
Yes.
Who are you literally connecting to? And so you had to form a broader bandwidth of understanding about what ministry is really all about.
That's true.
It's meeting needs of people,
Other people.
right?
Right.
Very
That's
simply
right.
put.
Right.
But in many instances, we would look out there and say, oh my God. And then when the church was closed, we had nowhere to look.
Yes.
We were in front of cameras just like we are
Yes,
now,
That's right.
and lights and camera people, you know, who are so professional, you know, they don't say amen. Camera folks
They'll do
don't
it.
say amen. The sound people, the video folks,
Yes.
you know, they got to
gotta
watch
be-
what's
yeah,
going on,
yeah.
Right.
right? They're not our audience. They're our facilitators. So we really had no one that we were literally preaching to, as we had always been acculturated to understand.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So how was that when the metrics totally changed? When even the contributions came in online.
Right.
You weren't watching. you know, I'm pretty seasoned in that. I've been a pastor for 45 years.
Yes.
I can look at the crowd. I kind of know what's going to happen today. You know, I can see who walks around to the offering table. I kind of know how we're going to be sitting today. You know, I got a certain thing in my mind that's come over the experience of so many years.
Right.
But that's out the window. And it's still out the window. And even if you reopen, or if you've already reopened, that's out the window.
Still
Yes,
is.
it is.
Now the metric, the bandwidth of how people engage with us is so different. How was that? Looking at numbers, dealing with numbers, expecting numbers, not knowing the number, and all of that kind of stuff. How did you deal with that?
Well, Bishop, when the pandemic hit, Transformation Church had started undergoing a great growth spurt. We were at the point where we were starting to fill the sanctuary up.
Yeah.
You know, chairs that we had stacked in the back, we were kind of starting to put them out, and we were excited.
Yes.
And then the pandemic hit and shut us down. And I said, oh my goodness, and other things. and the concern became, what are we going to do now?
Yes.
Because we had just started building a video ministry, because that's something we've been trying to push. But everybody always said, well, most of the people in the church aren't even on Facebook. So it kind of stayed in the back.
Yeah.
It kind of stayed in the back. Well, most people don't even know how to use electronic devices.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
stayed in the back.
Yeah.
Well, now here we are. We're forced. Dr. Michael Cunningham told me once, he said, never waste a crisis.
That's right.
You're at a point now where you have no choice but to be your creative best.
Innovate or evaporate.
Innovate or evaporate. What improvise, adapt, overcome. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So it became, it was almost fascinating to see how people came together. And it got to the point where the things that I was trying to push that people weren't really willing to do because, well, I'm not really into that, Givelify and things of that nature, our offerings got to the point where at one point when my trustee said, Pastor, listen, if these offerings stay like this, maybe we should never open up.
Right.
Because we understood, as you said,
Yes,
that
right.
we'd gotten so used to connecting with the people who came in the door that we forgot to go out into the highways and hedges
That's
and
right.
compel men to come.
That's right.
Go ye. God was always telling us to go. He never said they'll come. The invitation is to come, but you got to go get them.
That's right.
So now people are starting to feed back to our churches that we hadn't even thought about. And these are people that work with your people, people that go to school with your kids,
Yeah.
people just in the neighborhood. Let me tune in to see what's going on. And they like what they see. And here's the funny part. Your church is open, but they may never set foot in it. But
That's
they will
right.
They will
engage with
support it.
you for years to come, and they will support your programs because they've seen an aspect of you that you had not been able to share when the house was full of people that you knew were going to be there every Sunday.
And we got to be okay with that.
Yes.
We've got to understand that God has given us a much larger footprint
Yes, sir.
and a much larger opportunity to really do ministry.
Yes,
not
sir.
not for ego purposes,
No.
not for, because you're going to have to set all that stuff aside.
Yes,
That's
sir.
right,
You know,
Bishop.
well, that's one thing I think we
That's
found
it.
out.
Yes,
sir.
That we, the ego parts, if anybody was afflicted with that,
It should be broken by now.
they're broke.
It should be broken by now.
That's, you know, I see a few of them out there trying to pick it back up, but it's not going to be like it was because God has really taken an opportunity to show us just exactly what He wants done
That's right.
with His people by restricting and limiting what we think we needed to do.
Yes, sir.
And so the numbers game is different, Pastor
Yes.
Whitlow. How have you adjusted and adapted to that?
Well, we have adjusted very well because that's something that I saw early on, even when going into Facebook. I saw like the tithes and offerings were going up, and it was like, okay, well, we're ministering to cameras. These are people that we cannot physically see, but they were sowing into the ministry because, like Dr. Cadwell said, when they tuned in, presentation is everything. You have to make sure, too, pastors, when you get going out there, you have to walk in excellence, because people they can switch off on whoever they need to see. Just make sure that we are walking in excellence in everything that we do, and people will engage into what they see, into your ministry. And if that's for that person, they will be captivated and they will begin to support and sow into the ministry. So I did see that. That was a great thing that I saw. And the transition was well, because the offerings, they were higher, actually.
Well, Dr. Cummings, you know, I'm looking around. I think you're the youngest one at the table.
You think so, Bishop? I don't think so, Bishop. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah,
You're not the youngest looking at the table. But you know, I remember calling you one day because I saw something that you put out there that was so interesting. It was animated video, and it was a bunch of stuff. I mean, it was hot. It was, no, what's the right word? Lit.
Lit.
Yes, with lit. T, yeah.
Yeah, with the T.
Yes, sir. That's T.
That's right.
So I saw this thing. I called you right away. I said, Tariq, I said, what company that you got doing that new stuff with that video thing that you got doing it? And you said, Bishop, I did that myself.
Yeah.
And I was just flabbergasted. Because you took technology into your hands, you mastered it, and then used it. I don't know if you even had a staff or whatever.
Right.
You did it yourself.
Right.
You did all of your commercials, your promotions, your animated video, you did a lot of great stuff. And, you know, that's that great young mind that you have. I love you, and I appreciate that.
Bless you, Bishop.
Because you're showing me something. But how did you begin to use those kinds of talents toward, and why? Why did you see that to be necessary?
Well, you know, sometimes, I've been taught that in some cases that the job of the preacher is just to make sure that the word of God is just preached in the pulpit or in Bible study format. But one thing I noticed, and you've been preaching this to us, is that we shouldn't be a preacher, period.
That's right.
But we should be a preacher, comma, and because there are other gifts that are on the inside of us, right? Yeah. That sometimes we hold because we feel like we have to fit a certain role or a certain mold. But the pandemic threw all that out the window, right?
Yes.
And so we needed a media team. And guess who was the chair of the media team? I was. You know what I'm saying? And so this was an opportunity for me to really step into an area and passion. I've done music ministry, and arts has always been a part of my life.
Right.
And so another way for me to engage and embrace the fact that I'm a millennial, right? And embrace that. And,
He's one of them.
Yeah, he's one of them. Y'all gonna thank us millennials. We're gonna keep this thing together.
Right.
Well, we thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
But it allowed me an opportunity to really tap into some other gifts and some other natures, and also to connect with other people that had the same type of passion. One of my good friends who you met, Pastor Kennebrew, always said, if I could just do technology, do this piece, I would love to just do this full time, because it allows you this opportunity, this freedom that I guess that somehow we had somewhat kind of gotten stagnant, right? That was what the issue with the church was, that the church had really gotten stagnant with, you know, stand up, sit down.
Yes.
Hoop holler, hit the click track, it's everything was just in that order, right? And we didn't have church until now, but now, but if you hit the click track now, you don't know when to start or when to, to stop it, Now it's just changed, and so it's now causing us to look at the world a totally different thing. And I must add to what was shared, Bishop, that one aspect of this whole pandemic that it opened my eyes is that we were able to see that the world is our parish, right? To see that we are impacting people all across the world through social media, through technology, has been a blessing. I'm just not only impacting those who are in Lithonia, Georgia, or in Stonecrest, Georgia, or Atlanta, Georgia, but to see when I look at my analytics that there are people from back home here in Michigan, folk in California, folk overseas, and how it's so easy now for our members to actually evangelize. All they have to do is like and share.
That's right.
That's it.
Evangelism has not been any easier than that.
That's right.
Just like and share, and just to see how the gospel has just become so simple. It's been a blessing.
We actually had at the beginning more people that did not go to our church sharing our video than people who did.
Absolutely.
When we first started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have seen the very, very same thing. And we no longer have this parochial concept of what a congregation is.
That's right.
You know, because congregations had become tribes.
Yes, sir.
We had become so tribal
Yes, sir.
that we even had congregational rivalries.
Yes,
Come
sir.
on.
Little kingdoms
You
within
know,
ourselves.
this church and then the church down the street, you know, was trying to outdo the church down the
Yes,
street.
sir.
Trying to say, well, listen, that's no longer, that's the word congregation as we have known it is just about obsolete.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Because the footprint now, the engagement, the word is engagement.
Yes.
Who are we engaging and who's engaging with us?
Yes.
That now can become exponential depending on how your outreach is, how your philosophy of ministry is.
Right.
Who are you open to reaching?
Right.
And the technology has driven that. It's driven our concept of ministry. It's broadened again the bandwidth of ministry that we've tried to place out there. And things pre-COVID and things post-COVID will probably never be the same.
I agree.
Now, let's talk a little bit, though, about message. Because though we change methods, we know that the message doesn't really change. We got to make the case for the foundational principles of belief that we have. Even in this technological world, even in this creative world, the kind of creativity that you have given to ministry is phenomenal. The presence that you have out there is phenomenal. Dr. Cadwell, I know you guys have seen things change at the seminary level, or the need, if nothing else, for things to change, even in terms of what is offered and the kinds of creative type things. But what is our foundation, and how do we keep the foundation of ministry strong in this, in this MP4 type of an age? How do we continue to reach people with the saving and redemptive message of Jesus Christ?
Well, the first thing that we noticed at ETS over the last couple of years that we noticed in seminaries, period, is, I won't say necessarily a deviation from, but an embracing more practical ideas and more practical movement. Theology is great. Greek and Hebrew, wonderful. But we've got to know how to engage the people that we're trying to engage. So much is being discussed in seminaries concerning the practical approach to people, because at the end of the day, Jesus didn't come to feed people with loaves of bread and fish.
No.
But he did it.
Yes.
He didn't come to heal people, but he did it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you have to address the physical need.
Yes.
You have to address those emotional needs. You have to be able to be aware of where your people are, the people you're ministering to. What is their mindset? PTSD, we think about that so much in combat circles, but PTSD has to do with the surviving of any traumatic event. We've got people who've had to bury loved ones without a funeral. They took them to the hospital and literally never saw them again.
Yes.
That's true.
You've got people who barely survived COVID themselves. So they're going to need help to get through this. So we've got to start training our people, particularly in ministry, to have a more healthy approach to ministry from a mental and emotional, psychological standpoint. Let this mind be in you, which is also in Christ Jesus, but thou will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. We've got to try to really focus on restoring people, emotionally. We know that he's coming back. He's going to stand in the midair with eyes like balls of fire, hair like lamb's wool, and feet like polished brass.
Yes.
He'll tell the angel to blow Carmenesium, the dead in Christ shall rise first. Anybody know he's coming back, but what am I going to do in the meantime?
That's right.
How do I maintain? How do I hold on? How do I keep hope alive? So I think that much of the new training that's being done, even in the liberal arts area, is being done to try to identify where people are and identify where they are mentally to try to help them actually get themselves back established to where they were. Because as you said, the post-pandemic world, this was a watershed moment.
Yes.
This was a watershed moment. Sociologists, historians are saying that the world has been irrevocably changed
Right.
by what we've experienced over the last 18 months. So we've got to know as the church how to serve this present age and how to know how to reach them and what type of training we need. Because if you get up there just pontificating and using a lot of big theological terms, you know, that's just something else I don't understand.
Yeah, right.
But Pastor, my son, he hasn't been the same because he hasn't been to school in 2 years.
Right.
How's this affecting him socially? And what is the church prepared to do to make up for that? You know, my daughter missed prom. She's 16, 17, 18 years old. She was looking forward to it. It's not there, and she's feeling some kind of way. How am I going to help her get some sense of normalcy in her youth, in her knowledge? This is what the church is going to have to really start focusing on if we're going to be effective in this age.
Great.
You know.
Great. Pastor Whitlow, what do you think we need to do to continue to make sure that people are getting the true and unadulterated gospel of God?
I believe that the light of God should shine within us, and who God has made us as his people, that should reflect. It's like how my brother said, you know, it's the word never changes. The word will always remain the same, but it's the full life, holistic approach of God's people. We can't talk to a homeless person who's hungry about Jesus and their stomachs are growling. First of all, you got to give me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something.
Come on.
You got to give me something
That's
and
right.
take this away so I can begin to hear the word of God. So I think it's the practical life application of us really scrutinizing and looking at how can we approach that platform of God's people. How can we get them to engage in that aspect? We have to be able to approach it holistically. You know, single mothers who just barely can, their kids all over the place. They're tired of looking at a computer screen and they're just all over the place. Like, how can we get that mother where she's whole and complete in her mental stability so that she can begin to pray with her children? You know, that's so important. There's so many dynamics to that, Bishop. And I think that's where we as the church, we as leaders and pastors, we need to engage in that as well. But we have to deal with the holistic approach in that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, Bishop, I kind of mentioned earlier, us just preaching the gospel simple, full, and free.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
it's in the hymn. It's a hymn.
right.
But the whole idea of us really practically living it out
Yes.
is the way I believe that we have
Yeah.
to go forward. I think now we once lived in a time where the soundbite, right? I have to say the hottest line in the sermon so that I can get so many hits that go viral and whatnot. And, you know, to get the congregation around, you know, get roused up to a certain level, and that will open up doors for other engagements and open up doors for this and that. Those days and that time is not now, right?
No.
You have to preach the gospel in such a way that is so simple, because right now it's not about the sound bites,
That's
right?
right.
No.
And I actually found the gospel being preached not only in the Sunday morning experience or the Wednesday experience, but I must say that the greatest pulpit I was able actually to preach in during this pandemic was over 8-9 boys I had on my son's football team. Yeah, it was
That's
there,
it.
right?
That's right.
That actually I found and made the greatest impact, because not only is it about engagement, but it's really about impact. And so
That's
when
it.
I was there coaching, I coach, Bishop.
Coaching.
I'm coaching.
Yes, come
all right.
on.
I'm coming up with plays. And so with that in mind, you know, I was working with those young boys, and I wasn't going out saying I'm a pastor or anything like that, but I was just being my son's father. And because of the light that shined bright in me,
Yes.
they were drawn to me to ask me, hey, can you pray for me? Can you do this for me? Can you offer counsel for that? And so for me, I think that's the way forward.
You know, what I have been teaching, and I know I've shared it with you guys and with our fellowship and pastors wherever I go, is that what's needed now is practical solutions for everyday living.
That's right.
Yes.
That when we bring the gospel to a place where it becomes I call snackable.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Where people can say, that's what I needed.
Yes.
This it filled the gap. That's what I see the principles.
Yes.
And you can take a text and you can, do this real theological treatise
Yes, sir.
on a text and be very scholarly and very erudite and
Yes,
very,
sir.
I use big
structure
words
Yes,
all
sir.
the time.
You got it flowing.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
And you'll miss everybody.
Oh,
Wow.
If
so good.
you don't bring that toward a practical,
That's right.
yes.
I need to leave knowing that God loves me.
That's
Right.
it.
Right.
I need to leave knowing that
Yes.
I'm encouraged.
That's
Yes.
right, Bishop.
I need to leave knowing that I can survive the hell I'm going
Come
through.
on.
That's right,
yes.
Bishop. That's
so
right.
I
good,
need to
Bishop.
leave knowing that I'm going to go back and I'm going to fight again.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You know
Yes,
what I mean?
sir. Yes, sir.
And with people facing so much,
Yes, sir.
and with this pandemic having thrown everyone
Yes.
and
Right.
everything, not just church, not just family, but the economy,
Yes.
corporations,
Yes, sir.
the workforce, the future of work, everything in our society has been shaken by this.
Yes.
And people are looking for, that answer,
Yes, sir.
that principle. They're looking for that answer, and they come to us, believing that we are men and women of God, and that we have a word
Yes.
that's going to make a
Thank you, God.
difference
Thank you,
sir.
God. That's it.
in their lives.
That's
That's
it.
right.
That's
That's
it.
what ministry
That's
Yes,
it.
sir.
is all
Hallelujah.
about.
Yes.
That's it. That's
Wow.
it. Wow.
I don't want to let this go. I really do not.
Oh, this was good.
I
This
know
is
we're kinda
phenomenal. Yes.
running out of time. I want to get a last word from my panelists tonight. But this is a tremendous, tremendous Pastors Roundtable tonight. I'm going to have another one on tomorrow night. And that one's going to be I'm going to be talking about Next is Now. I'm going to be trying to unearth some of the more creative pieces going forward. Matter of fact, the three of y'all need to almost come back tomorrow night because we've talked about some of that stuff tonight.
Yes.
But the Kingdom Alliance Covenant Fellowship is an honor and privilege for me to give leadership to the other pastors. God put a call on my life many years ago to pour and to serve. And that's what I've been doing and helping to build the local church and local leaders as they, again, not about the title. I'm certainly not stuck on mine. Bishop is not my first name. So I'm not stuck on anything like that. I am really, really focused on making a difference in pastors' lives. Well, people's lives, period, but pastors as well. So that's where my heart is. I want to get a last little quote or something from you guys. I think I got 5 minutes. I want to get a last word from you. I want you to look directly into whatever camera you're supposed to look into and have the opportunity to give a couple of minutes a piece and just talk to pastors who may be out there. What is the word that God gives you in this moment for pastors everywhere? Ladies first, Pastor
Yes.
Whitlow.
Well, Bishop, I just want to take this opportunity to say I thank God for you as my bishop.
Thank you.
4 years ago, when my father, Dr. Whitlow, passed away, Bishop, you came, you took me. I was in a place of darkness and not having no direction, but I was depending on God. But sometimes God, He would have a vessel always in place. And I would say to pastors, utilize what the blessing that God gives you. Take instruction. Do not be so high on your horse that you will not be able to receive from anyone. But I say thank God for you, Bishop.
Yes.
I thank God for you.
Yes, sir.
For just being who you are
Thank
to
you.
me and so many other pastors across this land and country.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Cummings, You are here from Atlanta,
Yes, sir.
Georgia, but you're a Michigan guy.
Yes, sir. Go blue.
But I want you to talk to pastors. I want you to give a final word to pastors everywhere in this season, which again is not over. Talk to them.
Well, the word I will give to you, brothers and sisters, those who are viewing us all across the length and breadth of this country and world, stay committed to the cause. I know it gets hard. I know it gets very difficult. I know you may feel alone, but I've come here to let you know that there are some people who are praying for you. Yes. KACF is praying for you. The reason why we're gathering this week is to be praying for you so that God's glory may still shine bright. And you may not be in that place to where you say, hey, offerings is up from me. I want to let you know God is still using you. God is still doing great things for you, and your best days are yet still ahead of you. Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Pastor Cadwell, I want you to give a word to pastors. You have a wealth of experience. You've been in this for a number of years.
Yes, sir.
And you've seen things come, you've seen them go.
Yes, sir.
You've had your own ups and you've had a couple of downs.
Couple down.
Just like all of us have.
Yes, sir.
All of us have. People look at us and they don't know.
Yes, sir.
They don't know the very lonely moments that we agonize. Sometimes even that families don't understand, but
Yes, sir.
God does.
Yes, sir.
Talk to those, look in that camera and talk to those pastors.
Pastors, I would say to you that we are in a very truculent time, a very difficult time. We have issues all around. The pandemic of racism is still very much alive. Political stresses are very much alive. This is definitely a watershed moment. But I want you to know, Pastor, that the church has endured watershed moments before. From the fall of Rome to the Great Schism, all the way up to the Great World Wars, where Europe was nearly decimated and communism rose, which is anti-Christian at its core. We've dealt with declining memberships and declining funding. We want you to know that God is still with you. I think I heard Jesus say, upon this rock, I'll build my church and the gates of hell shall not prevail. Pastor, you're right where God wants you to be. Don't be weary in well-doing. In due season, you'll succeed and you'll receive and you'll have if you faint not. God bless you. Hang in there. It gets greater later.
Well, you know, this has been a tremendous night. It's been a tremendous night. It has been a real night, I believe, of revelation for pastors everywhere. We've gotten an opportunity and a privilege to really begin to understand what the plight of a pastor is, period. There's so many people that look at pastors, and there's so many pastoral exteriors that often give off unfortunate and unreal images.
Yes.
And sometimes the real battleground is on the inside of the pastor. Again, there are nights that your children, your spouse just cannot comprehend and perceive all of the stress, all of the issues, what's going on in your mind, what you're dealing with, your own personal health and all of that. But here's what we know. We know that God is our refuge.
Yes. Hallelujah.
And he's our strength.
Yes, he is.
He's our refuge because he's our hiding place.
Bishop.
Yes.
He's our shelter.
Watch your
Yes,
voice,
he is.
Bishop.
He's our strength because when I'm weak, he lifts me.
Yes.
Watch your voice,
Hallelujah.
Bishop. Watch
And he
your voice.
inspires me, and
Come on.
and he gives me peace, and he gives me joy.
Yes, sir.
He continues
Yes, sir. Yes, he does.
to let me know that not only is he my refuge and my strength, but he's my present help.
Yes, sir, Bishop.
Come on.
He's not help later. He's not help
Yes, sir.
after a while.
Come
He's
on.
not help
Come on.
perhaps.
Come
Yes.
on.
He's not help
Come
I
on.
think so.
Come
Come on,
Bishop.
Bishop.
He is a present
That's it.
Yes.
That's it. That's it,
Hallelujah.
Bishop.
in the time of trouble.
Lord have mercy.
So I'm grateful. I'm thankful. God's good. He's good all the time. And pastors, you hang in there. Whoever you
Hang
are,
in there.
Yes.
hang in
Hang
there.
in there.
Hang in
Know that God
Yes,
has
sir.
you
Yes, he does.
Yes, sir.
in His arms.
Bless
Don't capitulate. Don't acquiesce. Don't give up. Don't quit.
Yeah.
Hang in there. No matter what the plight, even the pandemic, you're more than a conqueror through him
right.
that loved you. Well, I love you. God loves you. And of course, I want to thank my panel tonight.
Thank you, Bishop.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Cadwell, Pastor Whitlow,
Bless you,
Dr.
Bishop.
Cummings,
Bless you, Bishop.
and I want to thank you for being connected to us on tonight. God bless you and God keep you. We've got worship at 7:30. You
Yes,
hang
sir.
in there with
Yes.
us.
Come on.
Hang in there with
sir.
us.
Come
Don't,
on.
Yes,
don't
yes.
cut us off.
Yes.
Don't scroll anywhere else.
on.
We're on our way now,
Right now.
beginning the worship.
Come on.
And we'll be
Joel.
looking for you.
Yes,
God bless
indeed.
you.
Bless
God
you all.
bless.